Hi everyone, Alan here, Our History, Your Story. Today we're at Glen Coe, a harsh but beautiful place, and a place that I believe has been etched onto the Scottish psyche, and I'll tell you why. This place had been Jacobite country. The followers of the previous king had sought to seek his reinstatement, but to no avail. The new king, King William, had decreed an ultimatum for the clan chiefs. They would have to swear an oath of allegiance to him and his wife by the 1st of January 1662. The Jacobites were no longer considered to be a serious military threat at this time. The clan chiefs were informed of this, and there was even a cash incentive to any clan chief who obliged the king. But the Highland chiefs were a stubborn sort, and they often left things to the last minute. On the 31st of December, Alistair MacLean MacDonald, the clan chief here at Glen Coe, headed off to give his allegiance to the king. Now, Alistair MacLean MacDonald, he thought he could give the oath at Fort William. You know, it's named after the new king, so why not? But this wasn't true, and the commander there wasn't, he didn't have enough authority to accept the oath. So he was sent off to Inverary, which took a further 3 days. So he was late there, but the Governor General there, Colin Campbell I believe, he was out celebrating Hogmanay, so he lost 3 days, you know how it is. And basically, it was agreed that he could take the oath, but it was 6 days late, so Colin Campbell wrote him a letter saying why it had been late, and do you know what I mean, it was under good faith. Do you know, he'd made a mistake, he went to Fort William, do you know, these things happen, and you know what the Highlanders can be like. So he sent that off, everyone was basically happy, they sent the letter off to Edinburgh with his name saying that he'd taken the oath, and yeah, it appeared to be all good. However, when the letter containing the oaths reached Edinburgh, it was removed by the Privy Council. It's believed that John Dalrymple, 1st Earl of Stair, was the main culprit. Now, it's believed that basically the king and the Earl of Stair were basically looking for someone to make an example of. You know, enforce their power in the Highlands, consolidate it, and take out someone that they could. So they were looking for someone to make an example of. The 2nd Argyll Regiments came to Glen Coe under the command of Robert Campbell. Now, when they came here, they told Alistair MacLean MacDonald that they were only here, they were actually going to pass through the lands, and they were just looking to be housed for a week or two, because they were going to go on and collect taxes from other clans. For the massacre, orders came into the camp for Robert Campbell, and in it said to put to the sword all of those under 70. At dawn on the 13th of February 1692, the massacre took place, killing 38 people, and buildings were destroyed, people were put to the sword, as was stated, and generally, in this climate, it's a pretty nice day today, but if you're destroying people's lodgings and shelters, you're basically condemning them to death or great hardship. Not all the officers in the regiments wished to take part in the massacre, and 2 of them ceremoniously broke their swords. But before this, they'd let word to the MacDonalds what was afoot, and this allowed a lot of them to escape, and that's why it said that out of I think around 200, while 38 were killed, the rest managed to escape or flee. Now, the MacDonalds of Glen Coe, Alistair MacLean MacDonald and his clan, had acted under good faith. Fair enough, they were late signing the oath or declaring their oath, but generally through no fault of their own. He went to the wrong place, accident, he got letters to say where he'd been and why he was late. He went to the Governor General of the area, he signed it. Do you know, he'd acted in good faith, he'd done the best he could, and when the soldiers came here, him and his clan had offered hospitality. They broke bread, they spoke, they sung, they danced, they might have done anything. Now, it's questioned whether or not the commander on entering the camp knew about it beforehand, but after being there, after having all that hospitality, and then having to orchestrate a massacre. Now, killing people that have offered you hospitality, do you know, the Highlands were a lawless place, this is true, but nothing was more important than your words. Your word was your bond. If you were a righteous man, a trustworthy man, you had your word, then that's all it kind of stood for. What were you not if you didn't have your word? Now, Robert Campbell, the officer in charge, I think this hit him. And after the massacre, he turned to alcoholism and he died in debt and poverty. People have said that he lamented his actions here at Glen Coe. I've asked a couple of people to give their insight on Glen Coe. So Owen from the Scottish History podcast and Julie from the Exploring Scotland YouTube channel.
Julie here from Exploring Scotland. I'm currently in Glen Coe village at the monument for the massacre. Despite all Campbells not actually on the government side, the Campbells' name was tarnished. The Campbells were, after all, taking orders as soldiers. It did, however, strengthen the mistrust of Highlanders where the British establishment and the British were concerned. It strengthened the resolve and it increased Jacobite sympathisers for what would eventually be the 45. The Campbell in charge of the massacre knew the MacDonalds. He was from the area and they would have known each other and probably traded. I know that intermarried. It would have appeared to have been quite an insult to the traditional Highland hospitality that the British took advantage of this. Even today, in the Clachay again, there is a sign that reads, "No hawkers, no Campbells." I'm sure Campbells are more than welcome. It harks back to the days when Campbells just wouldn't have been welcome in Glen Coe because of the atrocity that had happened.
So my perspective of the massacre at Glen Coe maybe slightly differs to other people's in that I believe that more blame should be placed on William III. I mean, we've all heard the stories of, never trust a Campbell, and the sign inside the Clachay Inn in Glen Coe, no hawkers and no Campbells allowed sort of thing. But William III, he was the king, and regardless of whether the MacDonalds believed in what he believed in or not, or whether or not they rose up against him, he still should not have ordered the murder of these people. That's not to say, though, that the Campbells should not in any way be held in account for their actions. I mean, of course, they chose to do it. However, the night before as well, on the 12th of February, either before or after the dinner, some of the soldiers did try to warn the MacDonalds as to what was going to happen the following day. There's even a quote from a soldier who was being shown some tartan cloth, and the quote is that he told this family, "Were this good plaid mine, I would put it on and go and look after my cattle. I would put it on my shoulders and I would take my family and my cattle to a safe place." So this goes to show that some of the Campbells were against what they were about to do, but regardless, it has left a very serious mark on Scotland and in Scotland's history.
So Glen Coe and the Glen Coe massacre have definitely left a mark on the Scottish psyche. I don't know if it's maybe given us an untrustworthiness, or if it's just, do you know what I mean? You've only got your words. That's all you've got as a man, or as any person. You've only got your words, and you have to act morally. And the government forces here did not act morally. They were given hospitality, and everyone acted in their good faith, and that good faith was betrayed. So anyway, I'd like to thank Owen from the Scottish History podcast, and I'd like to thank Julie from the YouTube channel Exploring Scotland for their insight. This has been Our History, Your Story. I've been Alan, and this has been the Glen Coe Massacre. Please remember to like and subscribe, and check out Owen and Julie's podcast and YouTube channel, and that is the Scottish History podcast and Exploring Scotland on YouTube. See you next time.